In the case of the agricultural sector, we will be looking at moving goods out of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And we are to move them to markets wherever they can be found. Those markets that we will aim for are markets that do have willing buyers and willing sellers. In a marketplace, if there's no one to buy, then of course there's no one to sell. And therefore, with the Argyle International Airport and more access, I'm sure there will be more willing buyers and there will be more willing sellers. And all of this will take place in a competitive environment. I want to say to you that St. Vincent and the Grenadines will not be the only country for goods and services. And so we will have to compete in a competitive environment. Now, presently, what is the performance of the agricultural sector in St. Vincent? There is a table that is before you, and it is showing you the different areas that is assisting in the compilation of the GDP contribution to the sector. There are crops, livestock, fisheries, all of these, forestry as well, all of these contribute overall to the sector. And so, within the last 5-year period, the average of the contribution of the GDP, that is the gross domestic product, to the sector averages around 6%. It is so because bananas, which at one time was one of the main contributors to the sector, bananas would have fallen sharply. And so you would see the contribution of bananas within the last 5 years. But the sector would have held its own in the last 5 years. So you look at the data and you would have seen, well, there is room for improvement if we are really to improve the agricultural sector. Equally, when you look at the second table, it also indicates to you what is the value of the exports within the last 5 years. Each year giving you its own value. And so, on average, within the last 5 years, you would see agriculture, with the value of the exports, have been bringing around $45 million to St. Vincent and the Grenadines. But while you look at the value of the exports, we also look at the value of the imports. And at the moment, the value of the imports exceeds that of the exports. It is something for us to watch. But do we have the potential to increase the output? Yes, we do, because with an international airport, we can increased significantly our exports, particularly in selected crops. There is a chart that is before you, and it's one that is showing you export of some of the fruits that we have been exporting out of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And you would have seen the value, the quantum that this country would have received over the period. But there is significant room for improvement once there is direct access. And I'll come to that. Next slide. Now, the sector over the years have thrived under this transportation system. For access, we would have had ships coming to St. Vincent and taking more of the bulky products. That is, bananas, which was one of our main crops, would have been exported by the weekly shipping of geese coming in. It is going to be difficult to ship bananas with the quantity on aircrafts. So that where you have bulky products, root crops, the weight is going to be heavier, and so it is going to be much more costly for more bulky products. Liat would have been around, and Liat would have assisted in air access for some of our products. But Liat, in offering such services, can only take so much. Yes, we do have in St. Vincent and the Grenadines some products that can be moved by air. But air access is irregular. Air access to the destinations that we want to go is very much indirect. It is indirect because Liat has to leave St. Vincent, and once we are going into international countries, New York, Canada, the UK, and so on, Liat has to move goods from St. Vincent to Barbados, then to Canada or to New York, or from St. Vincent to Trinidad and up north as usual. But I can tell you, to move goods out of St. Vincent on Liat would cost as much as moving goods from Barbados to New York or to Canada. And so there are entrepreneurs who have been involved in some level of services over the years, but the activity is very costly. And so because of that, much movement of these products have not been done over the years. So with Argyle as an international airport, and where you are going to have direct flights to international airports like Miami, New York, Toronto, Vancouver, London, Frankfurt, wherever. With direct access, you can have a much more organized trade than one that is very much irregular. Now, if there are going to be benefits to the agricultural sector, then of course we now have to look at who are going to be the beneficiaries. And so farmers, and I see a number of farmers in the gathering here this evening, farmers are going to be the beneficiary. And once farmers benefit from increased agricultural activities, the country will benefit. And once the country benefit, of course, the agricultural sector, through increased contribution, the agricultural sector will benefit, and therefore you will have increased contribution to the agricultural sector. Once there is increased contribution to the sector, of course, you would have increased growth overall in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And so what will happen? Where on average within the last 5 years that the gross domestic product, the GDP, would have been on average of 6%. The growth to the sector can be much more.